Hi, my name is Aniruddha Biswas, and this is my progress presentation for Data Science Research Project Part B titled AI Driven Context Aware Assistant for User Interface Design ELIA. Welcome back to ELIA. And this project is done under the supervision of Dr. Orvila Sarkar. Now, ELIA stands for Emotion Aware Liaison for Interface Assistant. So it is basically a chatbot which is both context aware and emotion aware. Now let's jump into the motivation for developing ELIA. So the first motivation is the modern chatbots like ChatGPT, Gemini, they hallucinate. They are pretty famous for hallucinating, and which gives us inaccurate information, which is bad. And then they have the lack of emotion awareness. They don't know what the user is going through. They just treat everything as a neutral emotion and then gives response accordingly. Now, if someone doesn't want to go down the ChatGPT way or the Gemini way and want to go and see Stack Overflow posts and suggestions, the website is very disorganized and it's very hard to find suggestions based on our query. We plan to mitigate that with this. Now, the limitations of current chatbot, as said before, it lacks human essence. The responses are very robotic and mechanical, and it doesn't appeal to the audience. Now, providers like OpenAI and Google, they actually store our conversation with ChatGPT, so with ChatGPT and Gemini, so that they can train their models down the time, which is bad, and it breaches security and privacy. Now, there are some real world examples of context aware assistance. For example, UFO, which works for Windows OS and which watches your GUI and controls stuff by natural language commands. Then we have Flowy, which actually works for multi-screen. Then we have the Arya UI, which works on vision and gives you suggestions. And then we have the Honor UI agent, which is an AI mobile agent for phones and tablets. Now, our chatbot is powered by RAG rather than fine tuning. So RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation, where we store all the information, in this case Stack Overflow question answer pair, in a vector store, and on top of that we have an LLM which cross-references that vector store and gives the users the answer, in contrast to fine tuning, which is just fine tuning the model, which can be static and time consuming, and every time you add new information you have to retrain the model. Now, coming to the comparison of RAG and fine tuning, RAG works on dynamic information retrieval, where the information is very fluid. So you can add information whenever you want, and you can update information whenever you want, and the LLM just knows about it. So that makes it more dynamic and real time. Whereas in fine tuning, first of all, it has extensive training requirements where it needs time, it needs hardware, and it needs money. And even after that, we don't know whether we get the model as per our specification, and what happens to the old information when it learns new information. All that thing is well managed via RAG. Now let's go to the architecture of ELIA. So here's the architecture. We'll go step by step. So first, the user presents with the query, the UI challenge, the component they're facing the UI challenge, and the emotion. Then we pass it on to the front end, and then we go to the back end, and then we trigger two routes. One of them goes to RAG agent, the other one goes to the Pinecone retriever. To the RAG agent, we give just the query and the emotion, and based on the emotions, we also give instructions which will instruct the RAG agent to modify their answer to adjust the tone. Then we go to the RAG agent, and then we return two answers. So the first part of the answer is the response, which is tone adjusted, and the second part of the answer is the SO recommendation. Then we come back to the backend via step 7 and step 8. Then we come back to step 9, where we have the response and the SO recommendation. And then in step 10, we finally present the user with the response, which is tone adjusted, and the Stack Overflow recommendation, which is near to the user's query. Now, since this is part B of the project, we have some contributions from part A, which are the UI challenge categories, which we got from part A, the visual and behavioral components, which we curated from part A, and finally the emotions, the range of emotions, which we have seen in part A while processing the Stack Overflow posts and segregating them. Now, this is the interface of ELIA. So we have the welcome screen, we have the instruction screen where we list out the capacity and the features. Then we have the actual chatbot screen, and then when the user enters their query, emotion, and UI challenges, we present them with the response, where the top part of the response will have the generated answer, and the bottom part of the answer will have the Stack Overflow recommendations. Now, we also do some experimentation where we consider 20 questions and 50 trials, where we have the same word question, which are questions that are already present in the vector store, and the paraphrased version of those questions. Now, as for the quality and consistency, we can see that for both the cases, the numbers are on the higher side, which is good. Now, quality versus consistency, we want to be on the top right corner. Most of the points should be on the top right corner, which means as the quality increases, the consistency also increases, which in this case we can see is true, which is good. And as for the diversity, we want it to be the other way around, where we want to be on the top left corner, where as consistency increases, the diversity should decrease, which in this case is true, which is good. Now we have some conclusions in future work. As for this project, the conclusion is we emphasis on the emotions, and our chatbot is emotion aware, and it enhances the user interaction and experience, and it addresses the current issue and the limitations of the current chatbots. For the future work, we plan to experiment more with different kinds of metrics as listed here. And we also plan to open it to volunteers, human volunteers, who will actually ask questions and report us their user experience, so that we can actually make Elia more user friendly and user helpful. Now, these are the references of the project, and you are encouraged to read these papers. They're quite good. And if you have any further question, feel free to reach out via my email, and let's continue to the demo. And thank you for your time. Thank you. Hi, let's start with the demo. First, we begin with some of the Git repositories. So this repository stores the front end. This repository stores the retriever, which retrieves Stack Overflow questions and presents them as suggestion to the user. This one is the actual RAG agent. Now, this Pinecone retrieve is deployed onto render.com here. This behaves as a backend, and our RAG agent is deployed again to render.com, and our front end is deployed onto Vercel. Now, let's begin. So we are calling it as Elia. Now, the front page actually has the tool capacity and features, and I highly encourage you to read it, because this gives us the capacity and what actually the tool can do. Now continue. Now let's open inspect elements so that we can see what's actually happening in action. So now let's say I have a question: how to center a button in Java Swing. And let's say the challenge is tools and library. The component that I'm facing the challenge is in responsiveness and layout, and I'm feeling confused about it. So let's hit it. Now you can see simultaneously it has hit both the routes, and it has presented me with the answer. And since I mentioned it as confusion, so it has concise the answer as required, and it has given me two Stack Overflow recommendation, which is similar to my query, and we have also given the similarity score. And if we click on one of them, we can actually go to the actual Stack Overflow post, which it thinks is similar to our query, which we can see here. And furthermore, if you don't want to go there, you can just view the answer here, which was an accepted answer to this question, which is right here. Now, since it's a chatbot, let's ask some other question, keeping all the things static. How do I move the button somewhere else? Again, it hits the query and it's thinking. Yes, and it comes up with the answer. And now you can see that even though I didn't mention here it is a Java question, It still understands the context that the question it still follows the Java context, and it gives me the answer based on Java. And it says that okay, you can use the layout manager to move the button anywhere else, or you can use this one to have the desired position. And based on the new query, it gives me new suggestions. Now, how does it remember the context? I'll show you right now. So if you go to this request, and if I go to the payload, I just pass the question and the emotion. Now, as you can see in the response, it gives me back a session ID. Now, in the second request, the same session ID is being used here, F06, and this is responsible for letting the agent know that this is part of the same conversation and retain the same context. As you can see here, see response, it has got F46, yes, and here payload we pass the same thing. Now these similar questions, which is similar to our query, is coming from a vector store, which is Pinecone here. Now this has got 10,755 entries, question answer pairs, which we curated from Stack Overflow. Now if we see for the first one, and the first response which was returned right here, which was 68.9%, which is this one. And if we take this guy and go to stack and go to the Pinecone vector store and try to search it and return the top 3 results, you can see it returns the result which matches the most based on the cosine similarity score. And as you can see, it's the same thing in the same suggestion as what we got in a chatbot. And you can see it has got different metadata, and the UI challenge is tool and library limitation, and the visual and behavioral issues were responsive in layout. So what it does is, first it filters out all the question based on these two and based on the emotion, which was confusion, and then out of those questions it tries to find out which question is most similar to your query based on similarity search. Now since we have done this one, and we can see that it maintains the context, which is good. Also, since it is deployed onto the internet, we can monitor its health right here. This one is for the RAG model, and we can see every 5 minutes we are hitting it and seeing whether the health is fine or not. Similarly, we can do it for the retriever as well, which is right here. Every 5 minutes we are hitting it, and also we can see the overall health. For example, this is for the day, this is for the week, this is for the month. It was down a little bit down here, then it came back, and overall it's healthy. So yes, this is the entire chatbot that is working. And if someone has problem with or gets overwhelmed by this full white background, they can again go to the dark mode, and which is comforting. I prefer dark mode. And if someone is not aware of what the tool can do or may have forgot what the tool can do, they can hit this tool capacity button and they can see its capabilities and its limitations, and then ask questions accordingly. I hope that this tool helps a lot of UI UX developers and they have fun talking to it and get their answers at the same time. Thank you for your time.